Peace and blessings.
Peace to you. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Blessings. We've met before.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it's been a while.
yeah, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Katie told me about it, so I was like, I remember you and I talking, and so I definitely need to
Yeah,
do a class with you again, a session with you again for sure.
sure.
Hmm.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you've been good otherwise?
Yes, I have been.
That's good.
Yeah. How about you?
Pretty good.
That's good.
Pretty
Yeah,
good.
I've been tapping more into it, into the spirituality more.
Mhm.
Everything that you text me came into fruition. So I'm like,
Mhm.
oh snap. I gotta
Mhm.
get it together for sure. So I've been having more dreams. That's been activating more. So I'm
Mhm.
accepting. And then when I found out my family, my great grand aunt, she was a Mambo in Haiti. And
Mhm.
so she follows Ogun, met Ogun.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when
Did
you
she marry?
told me,
Were they married? Did she marry Ogun as a
I
mambo?
don't know
Well, that's
that.
likely if as a mambo, there's likely the chance that she's married to a goon.
Oh, okay.
So that's something to look into potentially.
Okay. Yeah, definitely will do.
Hey, Tuli. Look at y'all
Hi,
talking.
Katie.
Hey.
How are you, sis?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Hi, Ia. I literally just got off work.
Hey. Oh, you did? Yeah. If you said this is around,
It is
yeah.
just, I don't understand why Fridays are so exhausting.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Sometimes for me, I find it's the day that you kind of admit to yourself that you are exhausted because you're just trying to get through everything else, and then when you finally
Yeah.
admit it, it's like, oh, yeah.
Like, I
But we
feel the
made
whole,
we made
yeah, I know. I'm like, good goodness, let me get out of here.
it.
And there's still a call still coming through, but I
mm,
wasn't on the queue, so I'm just closing out.
hmm We had some RSVPs, so we'll see who comes. Um,
Is
yeah,
uh is there a particular link to send? Like just like how I invited Tuli, I just kind of shot her the link, but
that's fine.
okay.
You can do that. It's open to whomever would like to attend.
Okay.
Hmm
Okay.
Yeah. So we have an aesthetician uh, who is wonderful. I can tell you
Hmm.
because you notice any change here?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've never been to one. I need to incorporate that.
It's a treat,
Yeah.
and we
I
have
think.
someone who's available to treat us,
Oh,
and her name
nice.
is Joy Israel, and she's your god sister.
Yeah, she mentioned that last week, and I was like, okay, let me make
Yeah.
sure I keep that in my arsenal.
hmm
Hey, good evening.
Good evening. Yes, we're
Joy,
gonna give
so I
folks
heard.
a little more time to get in, and then we'll get started.
Okay.
Oh, you can. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just saying that.
Oh no. So Joy, you're an esthetician? Wow, I actually
I
said it like
I am. You said it right. Yeah.
okay. So where can I look up your services?
So the name is Obsidian Glow Aesthetics. You can find me if you. Uh, I could type the website in, but you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, the website, Yelp,
Okay.
even Groupon. You can find me.
What? Okay. Okay, I'm gonna take a gander.
Type it in.
Welcome, everyone. We're giving folks a minute or two more to come into the room, and then we'll get started. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And if you'd like, also, we have the recordings. This is all recorded. So if, you know, anyone has someone that they'd like to share about this class that, you know, think the recording will help them to kind of learn more about how it's structured, because we have the same structure every week. We have those recordings available for anyone who would like to pass it along. So I have the recording from the class last week, and so that is that, and this will also be available this week. So we'll have that. We'll have that going for you. Hello, brethren. Hello there, brethren.
Hello. How you doing?
All right, we're just gonna maybe a minute or two more, because I know there were some folks who are definitely trying to come to the class. And I know there's some text messages I was fielding earlier. Let's see. Okay. Okay. All right. Everyone relaxing into the weekend. It looks like we're going to have some relief from the brutal, bitter cold, and some warmer temperatures on the way in the Chicago area. That's a good thing. But it's still. I mean, I got around today a little, and it was winter in Chicago, you know. So
I just want the snow to melt on the side
yeah.
streets so that my neighbors move their furniture.
Yeah.
On my lunch break, the sun was kind of hitting my living room. So I literally just laid on the floor and I'm just letting the sun just touch me. Like, I don't know how much, when I can get this again. So it felt good.
All right. Yeah, that it did feel good. I was out when the sun was out too. It was actually marvelous. It was marvelous. It gives you, sun makes us feel hopeful for sure, and better able to tolerate other things that we may not want to easily. So I'm gonna get started, and I want everyone to say, if you don't feel comfortable being on screen, that's fine. But I'd like to invite everyone to introduce yourselves, since we're in a circle. We're in a nice small circle. So whether on or off screen, introduce yourself, and think if you can think of one word that describes Elegba for your experience with Elegba, because that's what we're going to talk about tonight in inner alignment with Orisha. We're gonna have some discussion about Elegba. And I'd like for anyone who would like, I'll popcorn everybody around, but everyone to think of one word that describes Elegba in terms of your experience with Elegba. And I'll start with Joy, since she's the first box I see.
When you said Elegba, I thought doors. I just thought open doors. And can't even say why, but I remember like my doors always being open, like literally, like actually, like my cabinet doors always being open in my apartment. So I don't know. That's what I think of. My name is Joy, and happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Yeah.
We can talk about doors and Elegba for real. We really can. That's an interesting idea, because of Elegba's role on our lives. We oftentimes see that role being opening a metaphysical door as well as a physical door, and so that's an interesting idea to play with. And I'll invite you next, Katie, to give your one-word impression of Elegba.
My name's Katie. My one-word impression, I just said everywhere. I just recently had my first experience with giving Elegba offerings. And once I did it, I just was like, it was just a whole new vision that I had. And I just felt more present from, so.
That's another really great word. I'll wait to pick on Aunt Tranika, give her a little minute. We're coming up with one word, a one-word phrase to describe our relationship with and/or experience with Elegba. But I'll pick on Tiliana next.
Hi everyone, I'm Tiliana. I hope you guys are doing well. The word that I've chosen is transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's another good one. Chantrell, welcome to the circle. What is one word you can think of that describes your relationship with Elegba?
I know I'm in the dark. I'm gonna turn my lights on. Hi everyone, I'm Chantrell. It normally, but you gave my brother a reading twice.
Oh, okay. Hi. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice meeting you too. I'm a Shango priest.
Okay.
For inviting me to the conversation tonight. I think of Elegba as a rock. He has been a rock in my life. That's my word.
Okay, there you go. Another very, very apropos word. And there's someone who is trying to come on and someone else who popped off. So hopefully they'll be able to come back and join us. And Tranika, your one word for Elegba.
Oh, goodness. Uh, I really can't think of a word. I don't know. The only word that I can think of right now is like connection, connectivity,
Another
just
great word.
based off of an experience that I had. Whew. Yeah, that's,
There you go.
yeah, that's it.
All right. All right, Joshua B. Alafia. One word that describes Elegba in your experience. I'll give him a little minute. iPhone 2. Hello, iPhone 2.
I don't know if that's Sandra.
Oh, Sandra. Okay. Sandra Calixte. Was that the person? Sandra Calixte? Is that you?
Yeah, I don't know if that's her. I can text her right.
Okay. Okay. So we're gonna move on to the uh, the other portion of our discussion today. Oh, okay. Let me do this. Oh, there it is. All right. We're gonna do the screen. Okay. There we go. All right. So many of you know me. For those who do not, I don't know if Sandra is back in. I'm Deidra. I'm a priest of Oshun. Initiated. I'll be 19 years initiated in July, and I'm based here in Chicago. And my lineage comes through a priest of Elegba, um, um, Ashabi Ogongolu. And so my experience with Elegba is through my godmother. And before that, I've been, working that was one of the first Orisha I was introduced to and received as an Aleo or as someone who was not initiated yet. So I would say my my one word for Elegba is choose. Because what I find more often than anything is that Elegba gives me the agency to make better choices, and oftentimes tricks me into making better choices initially, and then as I've come to become more familiar with the Legba over my time in priesthood and working with other people, and in my own journey with my own Elegba, it's more, it's less by chance, even though it's always still by chance. There's always a chance of that, but there's also by design of our relationship. So I'm very appreciative for the opportunity to uh, to be able to grow in grace and making better decisions. That's one of the better opportunities I've had in my life growing up, um, and seeing the benefit of that. So we keep the same structure, um, for every class, so that we can have an opportunity to go into depth as best we can between now and 6:30, and make this a conversation as much as possible. I have, and having two priests with us actually is going to hopefully enrich our conversation and even more. I look forward to your insights that you share with us today, Chantrell in particular. And if you don't mind, what is your name for in Shango? If I can call you by that name.
As soon as I turn off, that's like a Legba-ish.
That's a Legba, exactly.
Telephone a Legba. My ultra name is Bambo Shay.
Bambo Shay. I have a god brother who's a Bambo Shay as well.
I'm actually Mamo Oseye's goddaughter.
I'm sorry?
I said I'm Mamo Oseye's goddaughter, one of Mamo Oseye's goddaughters. You know Mamo Oseye Mchawi in Brooklyn?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, good. Welcome. Yeah,
And
beautiful sister.
Gwen send me your information because she was out of town when I needed a reading for my brother. And so, yeah, but Mama
Oh, yeah. Yes. Welcome. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. So, with every class we cover, Bambo Shay, thank you for being with us. Um, so every class we cover, just basically who is Elegba, drawing on the oral literature, which is our Odu, that is our oral literature, and we talk through how we work with Elegba, and as I've mentioned before, I don't focus on rituals or how you work, how you give a ebo or anything like that. I focus on what it is in our own behavior, in our own experience, in our own reality that we live in how that is how we work with the Legba. Because I find so many people so eager to learn ritual and learn ritual knowledge without even knowledge of how the Orisha work, or even knowledge of how the Orishas show up in our lives in terms of our character and in terms of our own ideas about who we are, where we've been, what we are, who we are, all of that. Um, and so I reel it back a lot and focus on that, and hope that this will give some dimension to the experiences that either that we think we may have had already or that we may have in the future, so that we can have a better awareness of how that presence of that energy of that Orisha may be manifest in our lives. And then finally, I end with a couple of songs. You know, I've tried to teach. I'm not the best song teacher. I'm really not. My godmother is an Okpon. She's a great song teacher, and um, and so I just start simple and work from there, and hopefully everyone can learn at least one or two new very simple songs with Alegba today, for those who may not know any songs already. So who and what is Alegba? So I want to actually also do a little plug for my god sister Carmela, who did this presentation of Alegba. One of my favorites, actually. I love it. So one thing we learn about Alegba and Odu in many stories is, and in the origin of how we understand ourselves to be present in the world is that Elegba is a caretaker to our Ashe, um, of our Ashe to our destiny. And I talked a little bit about that last week when we talked about Ori, because of Elegba's role in literally through Elegba's Ashe sealing our Ashe and sealing our the the life and the Ori that we each carry. And so I want to reiterate that this week that Elegba plays a very important role in all of our existence in spirit and incarnate in our bodies. And so Alegba carries a very important role in ensuring that we actually literally have the or reassign that we ask for when we are in Orun or when we're in heaven. So when we ascend, when we come to earth, we have our destiny to only live out with Alegba's support. So Alegba is in some ways very controversial. Although Elegba is one of the more popular Orisha, so to speak, because of the influence of how many Christians who have tried to reckon with the role and idea of what Elegba is has made Elegba this figure that is aligned with Satan or aligned with evil or aligned with the devil and all of this business. And I just want to reiterate here that nothing can be further from the truth. And one of the primary reasons why it cannot be true is because there's no real personification of hell within Yoruba cosmology. There's no absolute idea of this place where there's nothing but negative or bad energy that people are assigned to if they don't live their lives out well on earth. There's only Orun. There's different types of Orun, but there's only Orun, which is heaven. So, so when people talk about this idea with Elegba, we can just cut that out of the picture from the very beginning because you have to have a theology that believes in the presence of hell in order for the energies assigned to it to be from hell. So since we know that not to be the case, that's not something we need to even worry about or give that any energy to that. So, but Elegba, and I think one of the reasons why Elegba, and you all can speak to your interests, your experiences with this too. But the reason why I think that that characteristic has been assigned to Elegba is because of the role he plays in both maintaining order and causing chaos. We have Elegba. I should actually have put Elegba slash Eshu, right? Because Eshu is the energy of Elegba that is the lesser predictable nature, um, the energy of Elegba that can cause volatility, cause things to shift and change, cause us to uh, have to be tested. It's the way that Elegba has the capacity to test us. It's because of his unique um, position, as I mentioned, at the center of the forces of good and evil. So, so um, he doesn't occupy only the good or only the bad, because we in order to, there's a proverb that says in order to know good we must know bad. So Elegba is really kind of like the master of ceremonies of our experiences with chaos and order in our own lives, in the world, in the universe, in the universes beyond the one we know. So he has a very big role in playing in literally playing what I like to call the metaphysical chessboard of our lives. He's like, he's the timekeeper. He's the one that gives permission for things to happen through, because he is the carrier of Ashe. In order to make that happen. Of course, there's, everything that we know about predictability that comes with testing. Being tested means that there has to be this idea of fate, or the idea of something that is supposed to happen, and the thing that can happen, and the thing that can shift from that happening. Fate, chance, and change. Those are all Elegba's domains. Um, because he helps us to make sense of things that don't make sense. So he can rule over all possibilities of what can happen, right? That's why he's super important in relationship to Olodumare, which we call God, and because God literally, this name God literally means the container of all possibilities. So Alegba's connection with God is that Alegba literally has this role of uh, making sure that those possibilities are experienced by people, so that we can literally experience God through Elegba, right? So Elegba literally gives us a conscious awareness and experience of all the possibilities that life can hold for anybody, and it's so interesting because we oftentimes think, there are people who are, and I mentioned this during the Ori discussion as well, I believe, there are people who are really um, blessed with fortune, and we don't think they deserve it, right? Because maybe they're not the best person, quote unquote. And then there's also people who work really hard and struggle a lot. And it's like, well, why aren't they getting the same good stuff that the guy that barely lifts a finger in the world gets? That Elegba has something to do with that. Elegba, how he prizes and takes away in order to give us opportunities to grow our character and to grow our capacity um, to be more aware of what will make us better in terms of our character is something that is a divine assignment that Elegba holds, and that guy who gets away with so much stuff and doesn't get the same challenges and character that many other people get has his own challenges too, or her own challenges too. So we always keep that in mind. But Elegba knows what those are for that person, and that's something I always remind people of when those kind of questions come up. So Elegba, because of that role, this really very huge role, is a master communicator with any and all energy. My Oluwo, who is Ogulwande Abimbola, he's he I received my Handi Ifa through Baba Wande, and this was back in the 90s, early 90s, and he always said that Alegbot has the Ajogun as his errand boys. The Ajogun are those forces that create negative imbalances in our life, health, sickness, uh, death, um, loss, um, tragedy, sudden tragedy, punishment, um, all of these kind of really like negative things. Like some of you who have been in divining sessions with me have experienced me talk about some of these specifically, right? So he Alegba oftentimes has these ajogun to deliver um, deliver that some of those imbalances in people's lives. So because he has the capacity to communicate with Iku. In fact, there are lots of stories about how he and Iku have been in battle with each other, right? Um, he can work with he knows sickness very well. So those are his errand boys. So when we divine with the Legba shells, oftentimes we're talking to a Legba about these things that come up, these tests that come up, so that he can communicate if there's a problem with sickness. Um, Arun shows up in divination, and the Legba is the one that's communicating this needing to be addressed. Iku showing up in divination, which means there's some problem with relationship to someone's life potentially being altered, right? Um, or or tragedy or daily problems, araye. That's another ajogun, right? So Elegba communicates through the shells, hey, araye is visiting this person. And now we have a possibility for a solution because Elegba works directly with all energies, whether it's energies in Ire, which is blessings, or energies in Osobo, which are not that which cause imbalances in our lives and need, for us to have a conversation. So Alegba's role cannot ever be overemphasized in communicating with and through divine energy. Um, so in that sense, as I mentioned, he's the one that's in charge of aspects of all divine order and disorder. So that's why Alegba is the one we go to oftentimes if there's any kind of um, offering that needs to be made or sacrifice that needs to be made. Alegba is oftentimes present. Not oftentimes, he's always present. He's present even when we say Omi Tutu, right? When we say, even the opening libation is to Alegba because he opens and closes all doors to the communication with the divine, with whether that be ancestors, spirits, Orisha, all of those energies. Alegba has some connection with either aligning with order or disorder with, or communicating when there is disorder with those energies. Um, I mentioned about him being a divine witness and messenger to Olodumare. There's a lot of Odu, a lot of stories that talk about how Alegba um, will, uh, with the Risha particular, be the really the ambassador or the one kind of showing up for on Olodumare's behalf. Okay, uh, on Olodumare's behalf to witness what's happening and report to Olodumare in order for something to happen with that situation. One, there's a couple of patakis that point that out. One is Alegba and Obatala, and the story about the imprisonment of Obatala. That's one that we hear about a lot. So Obatala um, had to set out on a long trip um, to a neighboring town, and he sat before his diviners. They told him what he needed to take with him. They told him he needed to take several articles of clothing, changes of clothing, while he was before he left. So he was in a hurry. He really wanted to get to this town, and he didn't want to. He honestly felt like, I don't know if I want to take all this stuff with me. I mean, I feel like it's weighing me down. I want to pack light. I know I'm going to be there for a while. I don't need to take all this stuff with me. So he didn't listen to what his diviners told him, and went on his way to this neighboring town. So Alegba shows up on the road. He was carrying palm oil on his head, and he was, acting like, oh, I can't carry the palm oil. He was having a hard time carrying this palm oil. So Batala sees him struggling. He says, "Oh, well, are you okay?" Because Alegba wanted to help him. He said, "Let me help you." So Alegba, while carrying this big palm, and I should tell you, Obatala is in all white, right? He is immaculately in all white. And that's the way he always is, right? Immaculate. So Alegba coming along with this big, thing of palm oil on his head, of course he tips it over, and what happens? Spills all over his immaculate whites. And Abatala's like, what am I gonna do? And what am I gonna do? I don't know what to do. And so to make a long story short, he ended up getting all of his garments soiled. He went to the nearest river, um, and started to wash his clothes. And while he was washing his clothes, there was in a town on the way to where he was going, there was this concern about this person who was a thief stealing horses, and so there were soldiers out looking for this horse thief, and Alegba and Abatala were in the same area where this horse thief had been at some point. So Abatala's clothes are no longer immaculate. He's not recognizable as Abatala because his clothes cannot get white again because of the palm oil. So he goes, puts on his clothes, tries his best to make the best of the situation to continue his journey. He's stopped by the guards looking for the horse thief, taken to prison. And he was imprisoned in the town that Shango ruled over at the time. So he's, he's languishing literally in a prison that's so small that he can't even sit up straight. It's so dark and dank that he literally starts to lose his eyesight. So he's languishing in this jail for years, literally, with no one knowing where he is, no one knowing who he is. And Shango notices, and while he's languishing in jail, because he's literally withering away, the water stops flowing, the women are becoming barren. All of these things are happening to this town that Shango oversees, that's showing signs of decay and loss and tragedy. And so he's like, what's why? And he goes to his diviners and says, why is this happening to my town? And the diviners tell him, well, you have someone imprisoned that should be freed, that if you free this person, your town will be restored to its greatness. And so he follows his diviner's advice. He goes to the jail and sees that Obatala has been languishing in this jail. And so he takes Obatala out. He feels horrible about what happens. He takes Obatala out of this jail and gives him his white cloths and restores him to the best he can. At this point, Obatala cannot see, and there's a road of Obatala that when the Obatala mounts, he mounts very um, bent over and unable to see, and it's one of the oldest roads of Obatala. And this is how that road was manifest through this experience. And as a pact to acknowledge that Obatala and he have a pact to support each other and support each other through, after that, the beads that Shango once had that were all red became red and white. So that sealed a very special pact and relationship between Shango and Obatala that to this day stands. So we all are reminded that Obatala's fate, Elegba, literally changed the fate of how we all experience Obatala, we all experience and know Shango, and transformed the relationship that they had by showing up with Ajogun that literally came only because Obatala did not follow the advice of his diviners. So Elegba was an agent provocateur of Obatala in that situation. And so there's so many stories like this that that we learn of that show how Elegba is oftentimes the character that literally, as I mentioned, is an agent provocateur in our lives and in the world around us, even with the stories of the Orisha. Are there any questions that anyone might have about the story I just mentioned, or anything else in terms of some of these characteristics of Elegba? No? Okay. If you have any questions, chime in. Oh, sorry about that. That's a typo. So the question of how we work with Elegba. So Elegba is, I think one of the stories that I just mentioned really actually captures that question pretty well. Be willing to sacrifice for what we want in life. Um, Elegba really gives us an opportunity to change the things that we experience as negatives or ajagun into positives by our willingness to sacrifice. That is oftentimes one of the things that we come across most often in dealing with Elegba, um, is, knowing that Elegba looks for things from us. Um, Keeping in mind that Elegba has 21 different roads, or different aspects of Elegba that we come in contact with, or that we can receive either through receiving the Orisha Elegba himself, or encountering Elegba in nature. So Elegba occupies so many different aspects of nature that there are 21 roads that represent him. So, um, learning about how Elegba shows up in the crossroads of life. That's a big thing, right? We always hear about Elegba and his role as being in that center of that crossroad, whether it be the crossroads of good and evil, quote unquote, or the crossroads um, of decisions that we're trying to make, what direction we're going to go in, what or literally making a decision to follow through on something or not. All of those areas are where Elegba literally is sitting and looking for us to do things differently. Yes, Tiliana.
So is he kind of like in almost kind of similar to Papa Legba?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good question. Yeah, because I know some people do like to refer to Elegba as Papa Legba, even though they don't really kind of get the difference between Elegba in Bodun versus Elegba in Orisha worship. But there are certain Orisha that show up in uh, different African centered, or even different indigenous centered spaces, right? There are some southwestern indigenous cultures um, have energies that are very Elegba like, right? So there's in Legba is definitely a Loa in Bodun, and going back to Dahomey, right? So we know that Legba existed in praise, and that was brought through the Nago traditions, through the different, even in Brazil, the Nago traditions that are in Brazil and in Haiti. So Elegba and Legba have very similar, yes, and I would say very much the same characteristics. And there are a couple of Orisha where you see that. You see that with Ogun, and you see that for sure with Elegba.
Can I add real quick, Deidra, as well?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and also in a console, even in Suriname, in their system is called Winti, and it's very Akan derived. Issue is present there. I had an ex-boyfriend who told me I couldn't bring my Elegba to his house in Amsterdam, because he was like, "Oh, you can't bring that thing in my house." And even though he understood, because they always keep him outside, so they're
because Eshu, yeah.
and so I'm like, no, he's different. He was like, nah, and so I was like, oh, we need to break up. And we broke up in the airport in Paris. So that's one of my Elegba stories. Literally,
Wow.
crossroads, we broke up. And then I found my husband, met my husband right after that. But also in Akan, Anansi, like that trickster figure in Akan cosmology, Anansi the spider, who then in Jamaica, well, he also is is seen in Jamaica and like Curacao, but also like stories of Aunt Nancy is also like a derivative of a trickster figure that comes from this same type of figure. And then Brer Rabbit in the US,
Yes.
like Voodoo in the South, Brer Rabbit, Bugs Bunny. So a lot of my work has on Black dandyism. I see Black dandies as a manifestation of Elegba, and you know, I would talk about that a lot, like these different manifestations of him throughout the diaspora.
Yep, yep. It's he is everywhere, literally. He is everywhere. And I think that says something about the nature of this energy that so many different traditions acknowledge this role as being centered in the practice of the traditions. I think that says something. That we need this energy as a part of our life experience, right? To help us make meaning of our life experience. So I thank you for bringing all of those examples up. That's really important and good to mention. Um, so that's why, and I think that's why I like to emphasize growing in awareness of nature and its presence in and around us, because Elegba is so, I mean, from our folk tales, from our folk ways to everything, lots of different ways. Elegba is so important uh, to what we understand about the nature of our the world around us. Elegba, that's why there's a Elegba in nature. I have an Eshu that lives outside. I have an Elegba that lives inside as well. So we have this idea of Elegba being having a place of dominion in our home, right? That we can work with, and that has a cooler energy that we can appease, praise, and support. And we also have this other energy of Elegba that supports us for sure, but supports us in a way different from what we need in the home, right? Because of the nature of that Elegba to really kind of be um, a little less predictable out in nature. So um, having awareness of all of that and awareness of Elegba in our lives is really important thing to consider and think about, because the more heightened awareness we have of how Elegba shows up, the more we're able to kind of see where opportunities are to make decisions for ourselves and how that shows up in our own nature, literally. Um, so being aware of Elegba in nature is important. I like to emphasize in taking care of and celebrating children as part of working with Elegba, because oftentimes children, and because one actually maybe more than one road, but for sure there's one road of Elegba that is a very young child, right? That represents Elegba's roads can be either very very old, that he has very old roads like Alaguana, to very very young roads, like Koroko, I'm going to say it wrong, and I've actually I've actually given birth to this Elegba through mine. Korokorobia. Uh, so, Kokorobia, that's what it's, Kokorobia. So that's a very young road of Elegba that has a little, has a doll that lives with it. That's a young boy. Um, so you have this range of a Legba's presence, right? That demonstrates a lot of the nature of a Legba as being playful, loving toys, loving uh, happiness, joy, celebration, um, having um, a sense of levity, right? A lot of Alegbis I know are really, really funny people. They have a they're good natured people, right? My godmother is one of them. Cutting sense of humor, cutting sense of humor. That's always there, but always lighthearted, right? Um, Even when Elegba dances, his dance is very much playful, right? When he mounts his dance is very playful. So remembering the joy in taking care of children and the nature of children and how that shows up. Elegba parties, oftentimes we say, don't yell at the kids, right? Let them have their fun for the day. This is Elegba's day. Having bowls of candy, like when we have drums for Elegba, there's big bowls of candy that the kids can take and have whenever they want. There's candy and toys and things that are given out randomly. Legba, and there'll be sprays of candy just spontaneously in the air. And no matter how old, no matter how kind of like curmudgeon somebody might be, when somebody throws that candy up in the air, You probably seen it too, Chantrell. Everybody goes, whoa, it's like this spontaneous, like, wow, everyone feels that, and that's Elegba's energy too. And there's something about that he reminds us to keep in touch with, the sense of joy, the sense of being connected in positive and kind of light ways with people, um, and not being always down in the dumps and all of that. Laughing, having laughter, having joy in our lives. Um, like to spend a little time on being aware of what we ask for and why. Um, this is like his this is, to me, this is like a Legba's, like his very kind of um, important role, right? So oftentimes when we learn the power of prayer and we learn the power of intention, we have to we Legba teaches us to fine tune how we work it, fine tune how we learn what to ask for in life. Because if we're only asking for money, if we're only asking for the job that we want, if we're only asking for the things in the mundane without some context to our character involved with it, he will prize us with what we ask for. But then we'll discover that maybe that wasn't the thing to ask for. So I've I've learned that lesson over the years. I could I can share that. So sometimes I've had to really think what's important. It's maybe more important that I'm in a position to work that helps me to be able to be self-preserving, so that I'm not a beast of burden at my new job. So I may get a new job that's really great and may pay me more money, give me all this opportunities for growth, but then I feel like I'm a beast of burden because I'm constantly constantly stressed out and working more than I've ever worked before. And maybe I've been taught that moderation is better for me. Maybe my signs are that I can't work at jobs where I'm feeling like I'm pulled on all the time, or act as if I have to answer to all these people and not have my own agency in that space. So I can have all the things I ask for, but not have the things I need, right? So being aware of what your needs are as a human being, right? Uh, if you know that you need to have rest, and you need to have, or you need to have some way to be creative in your job, or that, or in relationships, that's another thing. What do you need in relationships? Um, Maybe you need somebody fine just to look at. Maybe you need more. Maybe you need somebody who is a really good listener. Maybe you need someone who's not looking to who's just looking to be comfortable in life and not take on the world at this point, because they just want to have a peace of mind and be with somebody else who's looking for the same thing, versus I just want a husband, or I just want a wife, or I just want a partner. What do you want from that partner? How do you want that partner to support you and balance out who you are, or support you, or be your thought partner, your friend? What things do you look for in a partner? What things do you look for in a job? What things do you look for in how you're working with your children? Is it enough to have a child that has, all the good grades and is making you shine in the world because they're shining, but then they're feeling like they can't be themselves because they're always living up to your expectations. So having a child that loves themselves and knows how to be pursue excellence, but not at the cost of their own, sanity, right? So how do we really nuance our conversations with Elegba when we talk to him about what we really want, and what that thing we're asking for will bring into our lives? So because he will say, okay, sure, there you go. So we have to be sure what we're asking for. So this goes along with, I'd say, moderation, because Elegba oftentimes in Odu in particular, there's certain Odu where if Elegba is present, there's always the possibility of things being very outsized or exaggerated. And that being kind of like living in a negative side of the nature of the Odu. So I think because I see that oftentimes in Odu that emphasize Alegba's nature or presence in it, that's a lesson to do things in moderation and live within a sense of your own truth that's based in something that you can back up, or based in something that you can live with that makes sense for you, but that isn't outsized to who you are. So um, living a life where you're not always going for the most extreme thing or the most extreme idea of something or idea of yourself. Because oftentimes there's a ledge there that if you go over that ledge, you may not be able to negotiate very well who you are from there. So working and living and playing in moderation. Oftentimes we learn about excesses of drugs or excesses of alcohol, excesses of all those things that Alegba oftentimes warns us about. That we should watch and monitor and mind our decisions around that. Um, so yeah, so I mentioned enjoying life and spontaneity, as I talked about in terms of how that shows up in like a drum ceremony for Alegba. Minding the decisions we make and observe the phenomena that occurs. So for me, that's similar to what I've kind of already talked about. So when we have this exchange with Alegba, when we make an offering, I think Katie, you alluded to it in a sense, right? After you make an offering to Alegba and you pray for what you want and you give that offering to Alegba, taking a step to literally observe yourself and your life and your surroundings after that process happens, so that you become aware of how you're engaging with the Orisha and how the Orisha are engaging in turn with you, so that you can have a better, even more nuanced understanding of like, okay, when I gave that, this happened and this happened. Or I thought this was going to be what happened, but it turned out that it was this, but it still got me to where I needed to go. And that's how Legba moves that metaphysical chessboard around in our lives, by giving us these opportunities to experience life more fully and maybe even differently than what we would have designed, but knowing that we're still able to meet goals in life that we set for ourselves. And we also learn where those goals fit in terms of our destiny. Any questions about any of these items, or anything you'd like to add, Chantrell? Anything I didn't add that you think would be good? Okay. Any questions? I answered Tiliana's question earlier. Everybody good?
You know what I will say, it's funny. In terms of when I saw being aware of what you asked for, like even today when I was, throwing Obi and asking like about a trip home, my cousin passed away, and I was thank you. But I'm excited. He's about to be a very wild Egon. So I'm looking forward to, that relationship with him. I'm looking forward to that. But I was like, I don't want to deal with no drama at the, funerals could just be a lot. And so I was just like really mindful about what is it that I'm really trying to ask for, and like asking that Alegba will help to ensure, because I could see him being all up in the mix of some drama popping off with family members. So I was like really clear. I was like, let me get really clear about what I would like to see happen, so that, my coming and going is a success, and even my time at home during this time. And so I really appreciate that reminder of the specificity of the questions.
Yeah, it's an art. It's an art to it, and having a consciousness or a conscious awareness of it, I think helps with getting closer to it. because, but it means literally making time, right? Like Chantel, you couldn't have had that ability, I think, to, and this is true for me, to have that conversation if you don't make the time to, right? So it's literally doing this work means really sitting with things sometimes and carving out the time to really sit with these questions in your mind so that you can actually, so I don't, if I have to ask a question of the Orisha, I don't do it if I have other things to do. I say, well, whatever y'all need, this is where I am. And when I'm done, then I'm done. I don't invite interruptions. I don't invite, because it's not just me. I'm not performing a duty in a sense as much as I'm connecting with an energy, right? So remembering that, and the deference that should come with that, not only to the Orisha but to yourself too, right? Because you owe it to yourself to give that time to them for yourself. Because ultimately, you're the one that's going to manifest in life whatever comes from that conversation. And so, honoring that conversation by making the time to be present, to be thoughtful, to be considerate of your own needs, because we're so considerate of everyone else's needs all the time. We're trained to be so enamored with making sure that people at our job think well of us, that our families think well of us, that our people who we answer to in life think well of us. But what about what we think of who we're becoming ourselves? How do we take the time to think well of ourselves for ourselves? To say, you know what, I really do need to talk to Elegba about that, because that's something I really want to work on. That's something that's a challenge for me that I really want to do better at. And that's what that inner alignment is about. How do you carve out that time when you are faced with doing work with Orisha, even if it's just spending time in thought and mind with Orisha? How are you thinking about that space that you're creating for them, which is really space for yourself ultimately? So
And
keep that in
deference.
mind.
I was gonna say deference to like my godmother, because there be times when I'm like call my godmother like, Yolosha, even either while I'm having conversation or beforehand, and she's really, taught me to write my questions down also.
That's
To
a
write
good one.
down before throwing OB and asking about those conversations. So there have been plenty of times that I'll even call her and like, this is kind of conversation I want to have, like, what to get that some guidance to and forming the right questions. So, she and other elders have been very helpful in that process.
Yep, that's a very excellent point. I do that too. I've been divining for a minute, and I call my godmother. I called her not too long ago, um, because there, that is part of what we learn too. This, as we know, some of Elegba's roles are very old, and we learn through all of the Orisha that it's necessary to include our elders in our growth in terms of how we understand and in doing things like you say, formulating our questions. That's a really great point. All right, so we're at the point now where we can start talking about praise songs for Elegba. Um, this is a part where we, learn a couple of songs. And last time with Ori, we just learned a couple of we learned some praise, or some orikis, some phrases that we can use when speaking with our Ori. Chantrell, I was sharing with them that literally, since we have Ori in our head, we can literally grab our head and just pray to our head, right? Girl, you know what I saw? I saw somebody doing Ori certification. Someone literally had, I keep talking about this. I probably shouldn't talk about it because I'm giving life to it. But there's an Ori certification that somebody charges people to learn how to work with your Ori and be certified to work with your.
They are charging for any and every year. Is like right now, our tradition is like the biggest hustle going on social media and the internet. So
Yeah.
I'm not shocked at all.
I was looking for images and saw an Ori certification flyer. I had to sit down, and I was sitting down. So, um, these are a couple of songs I wanted to do songs that you will likely encounter in um, either in a ceremony or in just common prayer. We do our prayer services too, so sometimes I'll sing some of these songs as part of our prayer services. Um, so I pretty much did it kind of phonetically. So we can just go ahead and start to sing them, and I'll start, and then we can start to sing it together. All right. I don't know if I'm going to do 6/8. I might just go ahead and just sing it. You know what I noticed though? Um, we really, if we unmute because of the delay and when you're hearing my voice and hearing each other's voices, if we unmuted, it would literally mean that we would all hear each other at different times. So we don't have to unmute to sing, but you can just sing along. I'll sing it first, and then you can follow along with each one. Um, Both of these songs are really um, kind of like songs you hear when people start to sing to a legba, either at a drum or in a prayer ceremony or in an ordo, as it were, or which is when people sing the songs to a legba or sing the songs to the Orisha um, within a hierarchical kind of. So the songs go in a very specific order to the Orisha. So, so I'll get started, and you all can sing along after. I have a recording of a kid singing to a legba, and I was trying to get it going, and hopefully I'll be able um, to get it going so you guys can hear it. Okay. Elegba go, elegba go anya, Elekbago, Elekbago anya, Alaroye mansankio, Elekbago anya. I'll sing it the second time. You guys can join in. Elekbago, Elekbago anya, Elekbago, Elegba anya, alaroye mansankio, elegba anya. Y'all want to try it again? Is the cat singing too? Is she hanging with us? Oh, okay, listen one more time. I'll sing it the call, and y'all can do the response, and then we'll go to the next one. Elegba anya, Elegba anya, alaroye mansankio, anya, Elegba anya, Elegba anya, alaroye mansankio, anya. Okay, now we go to the next one. Again, this is being recorded, so you guys can review this and sing along when you review it. The next one is another song that's like an opening song for Elegba. Ibarako mojuba, Ibarako ako mojuba. Omode koni kosi barako ago moju bara elegba shulona. Oops, I hadn't left the ago in there. Ibarako moju ba. Ibara go, agomo yubara. Omo de koni kosi bara go, agomo jubara, elegba eshula, eshuanya. So for si bara go, sometimes it's um omo de koni kosi bara bo. Some people say si bara bo, agomo yubara, elegba eshulona. So that's is Eshulona. Sorry, that's the end is Eshulona. So you guys want to do that one again? Okay. Ibarago mojuba. Ibarago ago mojubara. Omode koni kosi barabo ago mojubara elegba eshulona. Ibarago mojuba. Ibarago ago mojubara. Omode koni kosi barago ago mojubara elegba eshulona. Okay. All right. So I want to leave some time for discussion. We have about 15 more minutes. And so I want to give you guys a chance to talk and ask questions. Anything you'd like to mention?
Hi, Deidra.
Hey, that's who that is. I was
Yes,
like, who's iPhone 2?
I wanted to introduce you to Mr. Iverson.
Hello, Mr. Iverson. Oh my goodness. I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry. I'm gonna hold it together.
Hold it together
So,
so I won't get crying.
okay. Said yeah, if I start crying, y'all all going down with me. So there's a story behind Mr. Iverson. I had to just say my Fede Funo Batala, my Fede Funo Shun, he's here. That's what I'm gonna say. We are grateful and thankful that he is here and having having a moment. I'm so glad to see your face, Iverson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
June is dancing.
Yes, Oshun is dancing for him. My Fede Funo Shun. Oh, so beautiful. I'm not gonna cry. I'm gonna hold together. I'm not gonna cry. So I want to give y'all a chance to give some feedbacks, questions.
So I have a question. I feel like it's off topic. I hope it's not off topic, but you tell me if it is. If it's
You know me,
okay.
I'm good at bringing stuff back around. It's probably
Okay.
a blessing and a curse.
Okay. So you talked about roads and how Elegba had 21 different roads. And I know I've heard you mention roads before, but I don't know that I really understand what that means. Like, or if I even should understand what that means, at this point.
Oh no, yeah, that's not a problem. Did you have another question with that?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Just like what does that mean?
So the Orisha and this is different for different as Chantrell I'm sure can attest to, this is different for different Orisha traditions. But in our Orisha tradition in Lukumi, there is a idea that the Orisha are manifest in different ways in terms of how they are praised, how they are appeased, how they are personified. So the roads identify what aspect of that Orisha they occupy. So for example, I have a road of Oshun that is Ibu Anya. And so, but there are other roads of Oshun that, like Ibu Kole, which is is one that's a lot of people carry. So I carry an aspect of Oshun. if, as you probably have noticed, I have bata drums by my Oshun. I have a dun dun by my Oshun. I have the little drums that hang on her vessel, because Anya is the drum. And so the aspect of Oshun that I was that my Ori asked to carry of Oshun deals with her being a messenger through the drum. And there is evidence, and if you there's one book by Willie Ramos that discusses the book, the Orisha in depth. So he has a book on Oshun that talks about the connections between how we worship Oshun in Lukumi, and how some of those aspects of Oshun relate back to the towns where Oshun has been worshipped in Nigeria. So there are places where you can find a praise and worship of Oshun through this aspect of Oshun. So not many of the Orisha have 21 roads. That's uniquely Elegba. Oshango is a deified ancestor, has no roads. Shango is Shango, and that's everywhere. Oya does not have any roads in Lukumi, but in Brazil, in Candomblé, she does. So it's different for different in this, so it would be a lot to talk a lot about how they manifest in different traditions, but just know that some of the Orisha have different roads, and those roads give us a different idea of the patakis that inform that Orisha's journey, like the stories, the sacred stories that inform that Orisha's journey on earth, in terms of being manifested as or understood in terms of their mythology as being present on earth, how they became a river, how they became an part of the ocean, how they became associated with mountain, associated with lagoon, associated with disease, however that might manifest. So so like Elegba has 21 roads, and other regions have roads that are differently named, but you understand it's actually, and another way to look at it also is like it's almost like praise names for the Orisha too, because oftentimes some of the roads oftentimes connect to a way of praising the Orisha for something that connects with who and what they are. When you hear um, the water hit against the rocks that Oshun has smoothed over years of time of those rocks being in her river, so that they're actually no longer sharp edge but smooth edge. That sounds like music. That's music. You hear the different, when you really listen to that sound, it's musical. So that's interesting to me. I always relate to that to Ibu and Ya, that it's like almost hearing the different tones in Bata when you hear the rocks hit against a rushing river at the river's edge. So to me, that's Oshun. That's Oshun being manifest. Definitely, I personally relate to it as being very closely manifested to Oshun. So there are different roles of a Legba because if he exists in so many different places in nature. There's aspects of a Legba that live in coral, that live in seashells, that live in rocks found in the forest, found in different places, um, rocks found in the ocean or near the ocean. So all of these different aspects of Elegba help to define an aspect of a certain part of how Elegba operates and how you work with that Elegba. And so, for folks who receive their Elegba, they'll learn about how that Elegba supports them and things they should do for that Elegba. And part of that is because of the road that Elegba has. Does that help?
It does. Thank you.
Okay, good. That was a good question. Any other questions? Sandra, you're the silent majority in the class. So I'm gonna pick on you for a second and say hello.
Hi, sorry guys. I'm trying to multitask, working and trying to listen at the same time. So that's why I've been kind of quiet.
Oh, okay. Just giving you an opportunity to say welcome and to ask if you have any questions or insights or thoughts about what we've talked about.
No, so far I've really enjoyed it. Hi everybody. Sorry I'm in the dark and I've been silent, but I've really enjoyed it because I've always wanted to learn more, but this is like the first real conversation that I've heard about this. So I'm really, really, really new to it. So definitely just observing and trying to take notes, but I really did enjoy the conversation and definitely want to dive deeper into it as well.
Okay, great. Well, we have these every Friday.
Mhm.
Unless, for some reason we're not able to, but generally, we'll be here every Friday. And you're welcome to, ask questions as I mentioned. We have the Southside Liberation Center webpage that everyone, if you're not, if you haven't liked that page, I welcome everyone to like that page. There is a standing invitation to this class that's dated for February 5th, but the link is alive for every class, so it's the same link. So you can use that as a way to, for those of you who are on Facebook, to access the class or tell others about the class, and to get in touch with me. I check that. I'm actually on there, so if someone sends me a message, I will definitely check it. And so I just want to again give everyone a chance to ask questions or share thoughts or feelings uh, about what we've talked about. I don't want to talk the entire time. I'd love to, but
Definitely, I wanted to say something.
yeah.
I really thank you for this space because this is not something that is really talked about, honestly. So the fact that for me, this is really helping me get more into my family's legacy of voodoo. And so just being open and taking everything in, but then also going back to my mom rather than just, not having my mind all over the place, just having a centered space. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, that's important. I find, when I was approached about doing this class, because I had started to look into how I wanted to, structure ongoing support and instruction for folks who my own godchildren, I was really happy to have an opportunity to share this way of looking at Orisha with others, because I think you're right. There is a lot more discussion about, everyone wants to be a conjurer, everybody wants to have the magic, but we leave ourselves behind in the magic, um, and so I think this is a reminder that we all have things to offer, um, and it begins with knowledge that we have of who we are first, and who we're becoming first. That feeds into everything else. Otherwise, we're tripping on our own feet and working with Orisha. I've seen that. I've seen tragic outcomes to that with people who are very gifted ritualists but have very little investment in their personal growth. And that's a tragedy that I'm sure Chantrell could probably share some stories too about that. So part of this is I'm on a mission, y'all, because we need to really learn. I think how really wonderfully gifted and beautiful we are by starting with where we are, and then everything growing from there, and being patient with ourselves. We'll talk more about that when we talk about Abatala. Very important aspect of Abatala.
I have a funny Elegba story too. And thank you, Deidra. This has been great.
Thank you.
I had invited sister. She's not a godchild, but I invited her because I said Josh invited me, and this is wonderful. You know, people who are not initiated and people are just coming in to understand like the religion. Everybody wants to know who has their head, right? And like, I'm a child of everybody wants to be, I say all women want to be Oshun, all men want to be Shangos.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'm Oshun, and, you know, they get a reading. And I think some of it is like a misunderstanding, because like someone might say, oh, Oshun is speaking, or this Orisha is speaking.
Yes.
So they hear that and they're like, oh, that means I'm this Orisha or whatever. And so when I first came into the religion, I'm only 6. I'm not even 6 yet. Getting ahead of my time. This year
I'll be 19, so I have to remind myself, don't say it.
I'll be 6 this year. But I actually came into the religion like 17 years ago. And when I first came, when I first started learning about Orisha, got my first book about Orisha, I was like, oh, I must be a daughter of Oya. Because I mean, she spoke to me, because I was like, my patron saint in Catholicism, I grew up Catholic in New Orleans, was St. Joan of Arc. So I'm like, yes, that warrior woman, that's me all day. And I used to, you know, really do a lot of Egun work, you know, go to the cemetery. So I was like, that's me. So then time passes, and then I realize, I find out that my actual natal birthday is Elegba's feast day.
Ah.
I'm a Gemini, I'm a child of Elegba. That's my feast day, up and down, swear. Then I'm like, in my working dandyism, I'm like, you know, Elegba is my homeboy, he's everywhere, I'm an Elegba, like. And so I started off in a different house, and then in Montevega's house, actually. And then,
oh,
yeah. Marta was the first person to put leques on me. And then I, you know, left her house and went to Mama Oseye's house. So, you know, when she put the leques on me, she put leques on me for Shango. And I'm like, this lady, what she, I was like, you know, all praises, doing respect, godmother, but I'm like, she don't know, you know. So
right.
I'm like, hey, maybe I need Shango in my life. So, hey, you know, we're following this. So even to the time I go and get my head mark, we're going to go get my head mark, and a rat runs across this was in the Bronx. Rat runs across the threshold, and I'm like, see, godmother, I'm a child of Elegba. We sit down, blah, blah, say, Shango. And I start, I hold it together, because I'm also thinking they don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
Hold it together until we get back in the car. And I'm like, oh, I can't believe it. It's so much. And she looking at me like I'm crazy. But Elegba always comes to me in my readings and my ties, like, you know, you could have been my child. I love you so much. You're my best friend. I'm your best friend. So that's my little Elegba story. He is my homeboy. Like when people say Jesus is my homeboy, Elegba is my homeboy, truly.
What do I call Elegba in the house? What do I call him?
I said, I was like, I'm surprised she didn't say homie.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's the homie.
That's the homie. It's my homeboy.
The homie. Yes. Yes. That's my homie.
I appreciate hearing that, because like social media, like it's just like information overload. And for me, I think one of my challenges that I'm giving myself in this tradition, especially because it's an oral tradition, that's new for me, just being able to process the information in a different way. So even coming into the organicness of being connected through Ia is what I need to focus on, because on social media, it's a post here, it's a post there, I'm a priestess. And so I think just hearing that from both of you, it just kind of settles me on like, okay, Kate, you don't have to be outwardly. I think being a 90s kid, there is a part of me that wants to, but for this, I hold it so, like, I really am invested in this, and it doesn't have to be in that way. And that may work for whoever does that, but not getting sucked into it. And then just kind of like, I don't want to say like besmirching the religion, but you know what I'm saying? But, you know, it's just something that's so much deeper to me. And I'm kind of in the push and pulls of what media is and the information that people are just spewing out here versus like conceptualizing it for myself. So it slows me down, which is what I need.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good insight. Yep. And Janika, she's thinking. I can tell. Those wheels are turning. I know my Aunt Janika. Those wheels are turning. That's all right, sis. We'll get to you. It is 6:30. I want to honor everybody's time, but I want to say thank you to everybody for coming tonight and lending your insights, your questions, your thoughts, and thank you so much. It's so nice to have you with us, Chantrell. I just really nice. And please give your godmother, my hellos and my warmest regards.
I will. I just want to come to learn and listen. So thank you. This is a great way to spend the evening.
Yeah, and we still have some more evening left too. Yeah. All righty. So, and some of y'all I'm gonna see tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Yeah. All righty.
Y'all have a good night and be safe wherever you all are.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
And when I heard your voice,
Thank
I said, I bet she's from, because that's where my people are from. But I heard you, yeah, New Orleans and Baton Rouge.
Yeah, and my niece's mom, so my brother's in Chicago, but her mom's family, his daughter's mom's family, they're all her people from New Orleans, Mississippi, and so they always back and forth. She thinks she's from New Orleans, my niece. I'm like, girl, you from Chicago, okay? You say baby all you want. I was like, you are from Chicago.
A share a baby.
She be like, baby. I'm like, girl, sit your behind down.
I am humbled to the fact that I am a Californian when I go back to New Orleans to see my family. I am humbled to that fact.
But
clear.
Mama Coco, one of my elder goddesses, calls it California, New Orleans West.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
That migration.
Yep, pretty much. Straight shot.
Mm-hmm. Well, y'all enjoy yourself. Y'all have a good evening. Thank you so much.
You too. Good night.
Thank you. Peace and blessings to you all.
Bye, Sully.
Bye.
Bye, Kitty.
Bye,
I'ma text you.
Iverson. Bye, Tinger.
Bye.